Hey everybody, today I have an older recording that I'm editing and doing the voiceover, and I'm making an optional page, and I was inspired by this tag I've made. I never finished that tag. It's still in that stage, or maybe I added another layer of ink, that might be. But I really like the colors and the textures, and I wanted to do something similar with the same papers. On that optional page, you can see that there is already some texture on it. I think I used the ornament stencil, maybe together with watercolors. I'm not sure. I think I just experimented and tried something, and there is also, I think, a layer of gesso on the page, clear gesso. So it has a bit of a rough texture. But I didn't know what to do with this spread, so I just thought I would use this and make my collage over the top, as the colors are very good because they're matching the rest of the papers quite well. So I decided to use that. And you can see that the paint is already a little bit smearing with the matte medium I'm using. I think I use matte medium. Yeah, that looks like it might be also clear gesso. I can't tell you at this stage because it's been a while that I made it, but it's one of these types of glues. I'm going to speed up that part, the collage part, twice, so it's not as long and not as boring. You will also find all the links to the products I've been using in the video description. There's also a link to the blog post where you can have a look at the close-up images of the finished spread. The collage papers I'm using are mainly, I think they are almost all handmade. This is a jelly print that I made with a stamp, and the other paper is a calligraphy paper that I had stamped. Some of these stamps are no longer available, some are. I'm not sure. I will try to link up everything that is still in the shop. I'm also using some old book paper. That's always a good neutral element, I would say. And it's also opaque, so I can cover up something of that texture I have underneath, because I think it was quite too much to be used fully. So I really like to neutralize things. This is a tissue paper where I've just added some acrylic ink splatters to, and I really like this because it adds a nice layer and gives depth, but it does not cover up everything that's underneath. The journal I'm working in is from Action. It's a cheap store here in Europe. It's in a few countries here, I think, and they have some art and craft supplies. They are not very good quality a lot wise, but I really love that journal. It has not very good paper in it, but it's a very heavy paper, so the pages are quite thick, and you can see that it opens completely flat, and that's what I love. And also the format of it, it's a square format, and I really like working in a square format. I always use something to prime the pages. I would either use gesso or collage, so I can work over the paper. When the background is dry, I'm going on top with some ink, and that makes me think that I've used clear gesso for the collage, because ink and watercolors work better over clear gesso, I think, because it has some tooth to it and it's a bit gritty, and you can really use the texture with these mediums. I'm just applying the ink intuitively. I wanted to give that page a transparent ink layer. I will thin that down with water a bit. And I don't know the name of this ink at the moment, because Ferris Wheel Press always give their inks some really creative names. So are the packagings of the inks. They are also really dreamy and very special. And you can see also the bottle was very special. Looks like a little bit of a perfume bottle, I would say. And I really love their inks. I will give you the name of this one in the description, so you can check that out if you're interested. You will also find a discount code in my description. And here just using water, and I very loosely drag the ink over my page. I try not to overwork it. I really like the texture I got here. It's very organic. I also added some splatters, and then I will let that dry or dry it with my heat tool, because that would take a while because it's very wet. You always get interesting textures with the inks from Ferris Wheel Press. They often have different color shades and also some glimmer in it. Well, maybe I should not say glimmer. They have mica pigments in their inks. When the page is dry, I wanted to add a little bit of depth by just activating the ink again with water, and I'm spritzing the water through a stencil. That's part of our mini ink dot stencil. I just cut it into 3 parts because there are 3 different mini stencils, and I let it sit for a little bit, and then I go on top with the paper towel and soak the ink up, and that gave me some really lovely texture into the background. And I think that's really something I would like to take forward in another project and use it more obviously, I would say, than just here as a little accent. Next, I'm thinking about which focal point I want to bring on this page, and I have that orangish leaf here. It's from our Collage Leaves 2 stamp set, and I really like it as a contrast to the background. I think it matches the other colors super good, and I want to bring in that same color just with some ink dots or some little accents on the page, and I'm just going through my inks to see which color would fit that. And I think it's a Liquitex ink. I don't have the color in mind again. It might be Oxide Red. I hopefully will not forget to check that out, but it's an acrylic ink from Liquitex, and I just add some accents here to bring in that reddish orangish color, so it looks even more cohesive later when I put on that focal point. I let that ink dry completely, and now I'm coming in and I just add a little bit of stamping to the background to bring in a bit more interest. It's a text stamp from our Mix It Up #4 stamp set, and I just dip it slightly on the page to bring in a few of these words as a style element. I really love text combined with mixed media. I think it always gives it a it just looks nice, I feel. Same with stitching. I also really like stitching. I don't think that I'm going to use it here, but there is also a stamp set with some stitching borders that I really love using, especially when I have collage on a piece, because that makes it even more special, I think, when that looks as if the papers would have been stitched on. I'm also using one of the number stamps to bring in some details, and I just used black ink to stamp that. I grabbed a Neocolor to make even more texture on the background. I'm using an ochre color. I think that might be one of the new colors that came in the 50 years edition sets. I love them. It's crazy, but almost all of them are really pretty. Sorry for the noise if you can hear that in the background. And I almost always grab these new versions that are, I think, limited, the new colors, and I'm pretty sure you can't get them open stock. So yeah, I also don't know the names. I just make some marks and scribbles. I love Neocolors because they are opaque, they go over almost every surface, and they are water soluble, so you can easily blend them, add water to them, and make something more than just a crayon out of it. I think today I just leave these scribbles as they are. I'm also going to make some white splatters over the top. I'm using white acrylic ink for that. Before I'm going to glue down the focal point, I want to bring in something that my leaf can grow out of or sit on, and it does not just flow on the page. I really like when there is something that catches it, that element, and holds it in place. And I just used some more collage papers here. I'm experimenting with which I want to use and which ones I like. And finally, I decided I want to stamp our spiral. It's also from the Mix It Up 4 stamp set. And then cut this out and adhere it to bring kind of a bottom onto the page for the leaf to sit on. I just used that old book paper and I'm stamping that spiral directly to it using some black VersaFine ink. I cut that out and I also cut the bottom off, but then I realized that the edge of the page is very wonky, so I decided to tear that bottom off, and then it looks a bit more as if it was already on the page, or it just fits the page a little bit better. And I'm going to glue that down, and then I'm going to adhere my collage leaf on top, and this spiral also gives me some room for a sentiment to adhere some words. And I really think that even if the spiral also has some texture, it calms that chaotic area a little bit down. So I think it's just perfect on this page. I'm now adhering everything to my spread. I use a glue stick to do that. And I'm also using a sentiment, and I stamp that sentiment with I think with a stamp from our Collage Leaf 3, and I embossed it in white to black cardstock. I'm finishing up the page by adding a few more details with an acrylic paint pen. That's one from Artex with a bullet tip. You can use any paint pen you have, or even make the same marks with Neocolors. Maybe not as detailed, but also opaque. And I'm just using an orangish color to fit the orange from the focal point. Yes, and that's my page. Here is a photo of the finished page. Check the video description for the link to the blog. And I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you will see us next time. Bye!